Hi there, my name's Chris Nichols. I'm a real estate agent with TaylorMade Deep Creek Sales. I'm also a map maker for the area and just produce videos about general information around Deep Creek Lake in Garrett County, Maryland. And I've been seeing some questions, and have seen questions on what is the deal with the lake level at Deep Creek Lake. And bottom line up front, the lake level is governed by this rule band, and the lake should generally stay within this band throughout the year. Now, where did this band come from and why is it like that? That's what we'll get into in this video. The lake was created as a hydroelectric project, started in 1925. So the lake has never been for flood control. The original purpose of it was for power generation. Over time, the water from in the lake and then what is discharged to the Youghiogheny River through the power station have become recreational opportunities. And there's a rather complicated ownership and management arrangement of the lake. So the lake bed and the shoreline and the buffer strip is owned by the state of Maryland and managed by the Department of Natural Resources. So all of the stuff of getting a buffer strip use permit to put in your dock, all those kind of things, those are managed by the Department of Natural Resources. But the lake level itself is set forth in a permit that is issued to Brookfield Renewable Power, which is the owner and operator of the dam, and that permit is issued by the Maryland Department of the Environment. Let's go through the uses of the waters of Deep Creek Lake to kind of understand how the water is used and what this permit lets happen with these waters. So first off, as we discussed, the water can be used to generate electricity. Water is discharged from the lake through turbines, generates electricity, and then discharged to the Youghiogheny River. Second, probably the first thing you think of when you think of Deep Creek Lake water is recreation in the lake. So swimming, fishing, boating in the surface and near surface waters of Deep Creek Lake itself. And then when you discharge water from the lake, it is from the area of the dam, which is the deepest part of the lake, getting up to about 70 feet deep. That water is very cold there at the deepest part. And what happens when this water is released from the dam through the power plant or even around the power plant into the Youghiogheny, it reduces or can keep cold the temperature of the Youghiogheny River. Trout love cold water, so the use of water to reduce the temperature of the Youghiogheny River is called temperature enhancement, and this provides a improved habitat for trout and facilitates fly fishing of trout. So it's a recreational use of the water to improve trout habitat and make a better trout fly fishing fishery. And then also along those lines of when you discharge water from the lake into the Yough River, this increases the flow rate at that point and raises the water level and creates conditions that are more amenable for whitewater boating. And this is some of the most technical and intense whitewater boating in North America, maybe the world. So it's world known or world renowned whitewater boating on this stretch of the upper Youghiogheny River, but is largely only possible through these releases from the dam. I'm not an expert on this, so I welcome comments and questions on this, but from a report that I read in the 90s, only a small percentage of boating users boated the Yough outside of the release times. So the natural water flows typically aren't enough for whitewater boating on this stretch of the river. And then I have snowmaking with a question mark because I have thought that the WISP had a permit to withdraw water from the lake to fill up the reservoir that it maintains at the top of the Marsh Mountain to make snow during the winter, to draw that from that water to make snow. But I've never really been able to find an actual permit that indicates that this is the case. So in either way, whether they still do this or not, I don't think it's a substantial amount of water compared to all of these other uses. But I did include it because in my mind, that was something I remembered was one of the uses. Just to give you a little overview of how this process works, this is a snapshot of my ultimate Deep Creek Lake map. You can get that at narrowshill.com. But let's focus on the dam, which is right here. That dam's, so Deep Creek would have flowed through here, the dam there, so the dam filled up the Deep Creek waterbed, and then Deep Creek continues to flow past the dam. But what we're interested in here is the discharges from the lake through the tunnel. So this tunnel is about 7,000 feet, and the operator of the dam can provide releases either through the power station and then into the Yock, or around the power station and into the Yock as well. But this is how water leaves the lake through a discharge and then into the Youghiogheny River. Now let's look at this permit that we keep talking about. This permit is issued by the Maryland Department of Environment to Brookfield Renewable Power, and it actually doesn't specifically, up front, it doesn't regulate lake levels. The permit is really how much water can be withdrawn from the lake, daily and maximum daily basis. And this is the front page of the water appropriation and use permit, and this is really kind of the headline of this permit. But then there's multiple pages following on that have the mandates for these whitewater and temperature enhancement releases, and also delineates the quote-unquote rule band, and that's the portion of this permit that governs the level of the lake. And let's jump right into that. So as we talked about before, the rule band is this blue band here, and the dam operator is supposed to keep the level of the lake within this band. It's measured in feet above sea level, so the maximum level is 2,461 feet above sea level of the lake level, going down to 2,455. And you can see in the spring, the goal of this band is to allow the waters of the lake to reach the maximum quote-unquote full pool level. And then that is to provide enough water for all of the uses during the summer. So the dam operator will release water to generate electricity when demand is highest in the east coast region of where that electricity goes to provide for those whitewater releases during the summer, which is when more tourists are going to be using those, and for those temperature enhancements for the trout habitat on the Youghiogheny River. So all of those competing interests come into play to maintain this level within the band, and that's the operator Brookfield's job to keep it in this band. And there's some times when they can go above it, below it, mainly to try and stock up on water at the beginning of the season, and then they can go kind of below to for some of the whitewater and most of the temperature enhancement reasons. They can go outside of the band to fulfill those. And I'm not going to get into all of the specifications on temperature enhancement and whitewater releases. Generally, the temperature enhancement is the overriding priority of the permit, and that is to keep the temperature of the Youghiogheny River in this stretch that is monitored below 25 degrees Celsius, to keep the flow above 40 cubic feet per second, and dissolve oxygen into the specifications that the permit lays out. So that is really the prime driver of the permit, is to keep those conditions suitable for trout habitat. And then there are a number of whitewater releases that are specified, mainly every Monday, Friday, and Saturday in May through October, and then some other specified times throughout as well. But those provide a reliable, regular, and enough frequency for the trip operators to plan and have a number of substantial trips in order to have enough of a business to make it worthwhile. And just a look at how the actual levels of 2022 fit into the band. And as I said before, they have a little leeway of going outside the band, especially at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of the spring season, to get that level a little bit higher so that they have more water to work with during the higher usage times. There must have been some sort of big rain event here probably where it took them out of the band. You can see they dropped it down pretty quickly to get back in. And again, maybe had some special ability to stay outside of there at the top, going into winter. There doesn't appear to be any penalties in the permit that I was able to find if they go outside the band, but presumably the MDE could cancel the permit or not give them another one when the next review cycle came around if they found that they had a lot of violations in the last year. If you are interested in seeing exactly what the lake level is at that instant, you can go to safewaters.com, to this website, and check out that shows you the lake level, shows you how many turbines are running, gives you a whitewater release schedule so you know when those are coming up. And this website is set up by Brookfield Renewable. I think it's specified in the permit they have to do it, but it's a good website, good resource if you are interested in what the lake level is at any time. You can also consult the USGS water data website and find the Deep Creek Lake level. This is measured at the State Park Bridge. Monitoring station was purchased with assistance from the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation. It's not the Deep Creek Lake Watershed, it's the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation. And what's cool about this monitoring is you can download the data. You can download the last couple years. That's where I got the data for that chart a couple slides back. And it also shows you the water temperature as well. So if you're thinking of coming from out of town, you can kind of get an idea of what the water temperature is. So I've got both the level and the temperature plotted here. You can plot them separately, download that kind of data, whatever you want to do. But that's a nice resource if you want to get your hands dirty and dig into the data. So that was it. I hope this was informative to you as to what the lake level is, why the powers that be put that rule band in place, why what the competing uses for lake waters are, and hopefully I was fairly even keeled about this. I tried to do just the facts, ma'am, and not provide any commentary on this. I've got a couple more slides where I do have a little commentary and my personal opinion on some of this stuff. So if you are still interested in that, you can stay on the video. But if you just want to tune out now, I just want to thank you for watching. If you are interested in the real estate market, I'd be happy to chat with you further about that. If you're going to be buying or selling real estate in this area, you really need someone who understands a lot of these issues, and hopefully I can help you understand some of them too. So feel free to contact me regarding real estate, or if you are interested in local news and lore, you can look at my website, dimesy.com, check out my maps at narrowshill.com, and then I always try and wrap up most things with exhortation to get involved. And two organizations that I know of that are active in this area are the Property Owners Association of Deep Creek Lake. I'm the vice president of membership for that organization, and we were heavily involved with the recent reissuing of that Brookfield MDE permit that governs the lake levels, and we we're advocating for on the property owner's position on that one. The Deep Creek Watershed Foundation funds and performs a number of projects to protect and monitor the Deep Creek watershed. And as I said before, they helped purchase the water monitoring for the lake level at the State Park Bridge. They've done a lot of other great projects that kind of give us the data to both protect the lake and see what's going on there. So I encourage you to find one of those organizations or another one that aligns with your interests and get involved. And just making comments on Facebook doesn't count. So get involved, join one of them, go to some meetings. You may be bored for a while, but that's how you kind of learn some of the deeper issues that go on with what's going on here at the lake and in Garrett County. Okay, so on to this deeper dive, I promise. Yeah, that's a nice little pun. I did that on purpose. But an interesting way to look at this issue is, what is the value of each foot of lake level to each user? So for the property owners who have the ability to get a buffer strip use permit, aka a dock permit from the Lake Management Office, the lake level has an impact on how long you can use your dock, how many times you have to push it out. And in some areas, in the southern area of the lake and some other spots, there just becomes a point where you can't push your dock out any further. Either the dock is as long as it's legally allowed to be, or you just can't get to water because the lake level has gone down such that you're just in the mud. So for property owners, especially in those situations, a change of a foot of lake level can have pretty drastic results. And if it happens quickly, it could go from your boat is floating next to your dock to your boat is sitting in the mud next to your dock. Looking at it from the operator of the dam's perspective, each foot of lake level has a value of electricity that they can generate to the PJM market. And that value of from the dam is fairly high because its electricity can be brought on and offline pretty quickly in response to high demand situations. And basic economics say that when something's in high demand, it's usually more costly, and that's usually the case with electricity. So that lake level has each gallon of water in the lake has some value to the operator of the dam in terms of what kind of electricity it can generate. For whitewater rafting companies, they plan their whole year around the yacht releases, and those are largely not possible without, or the rafting is largely not possible without the planned releases. So natural conditions may get there if we have heavy rains and some other conditions that create the flow and level conditions that are appropriate for whitewater boating. But in general, it seems that if to raft the upper Yacht, you need to have these releases from the dam. And also from the trout fishery perspective, keeping those fish alive is something that has to happen all the time. So any significant excursions outside of 25 degrees Celsius will likely kill the fish. And once those temperatures go too high and the fish are dead, they don't come back because those are stocked fish. So we'd have to, the DNR would have to come back and put more fish in. And it is something that, once they're dead, and it is until probably next year they won't come back. So that's something that, if you value that as a recreational opportunity, then you've got to keep that in band all the time. Looking at this impact from the perspective of property owners on the dock usage analysis, the Deep Creek Watershed Foundation had a study done by Century Engineering and looked at all the docks on the lake, and they had a whole population of about 2,200 docks on the lake. And then they looked at different months where the rule band dictates the lake level should be at the ends of August, September, and October. and they found an increasing number of docks were quote unquote impacted by low water, so likely unusable by low water at the end of each of those months. And up to at the end of October, about 15% of the total of all the docks in the lake were impacted by low water. And you can see this example here. This is Green Glade Cove, and at some point you just can't push your dock out any further. There's just only so far your catwalks are allowed to be, and at some point you just can't even get to the water anymore once the lake has been drawn down to these levels. And this has a impact on your property values, and then those property values then have an impact on tax assessments and revenues through property taxes. Some of the issue here is due to sedimentation. So as sediment is brought in both through the tributaries and from shoreline erosion from higher wakes from the wind and boat wakes that washes dirt from the shoreline into the lake, that essentially reduces the amount of usable water in the lake. So as this brown area fills up, the maximum pool level is still the same, but less of that is going to be water and more of that's just going to be dirt. So less for the same lake level, there's less lake water and more sedimentation as that occurs. There is a pilot project going on in Arrowhead Cove. So I'm somewhat skeptical of the overall value of this. I think it's going to be extremely expensive. I think the benefit is limited just to owners in that cove. I guess the value to everyone could be that Arrowhead can now keep its docks in a little bit longer, and we can all go to the convenience store by boat. So there's a slight public benefit in that, but it's really just been more benefit to them. But in general, as opposed to dredging a shipping lane where now people can get to and from places, dredging a cove really just benefits those people in that cove. And I think the final problem with spending a lot of money on dredging is that we really haven't addressed the sedimentation problems up front. So there's really been no significant work done on reducing boat wake size, and kind of addressing that issue. I think some work has been done on tributary sedimentation, but really I think we're just going to be back into a situation where we'll have to dredge again another 20, 30 years because the symptoms are being treated but not the root cause. And my final thoughts on kind of all of these competing uses for lake water. First off, as I mentioned, that if you especially have an impacted dock, then as the lake level goes down, you have less of a usage of your dock, and that has a non-trivial impact on your property values. But the case and the caveat here is that this is public knowledge that the lake level does go down through the course of the year, and new owners and their real estate agent should be educating themselves on how this happens. So they're in a perfect world, everyone who has a dock would have equal amount of usage on it, and everyone would have the maximum property value that they could from that dock. But not all docks are equal, and your real estate agent especially should be helping to educate you on how much of the season you can use your dock for. Moving to whitewater boating, I do think that the releases are necessary to keep this subsector going, afloat, so to speak. This is a world-class piece of whitewater river, and it's kind of an important economic activity, recreational opportunity in the area, and there's definitely a substantial number of releases planned that it's enough to build a reliable business plan around. I do have a couple of little snarky comments, though. I do feel as if there's been a lot of pushback on trail development along the shoreline of the Youghiogheny River, along this very same stretch. It's a wild and natural designation of the Youghiogheny River here. And I think there's a lot of some hypocrisy there of being against trail development, but being okay with whitewater releases to be able to use it for whitewater boating. They're both non-natural uses of the river. Whitewater boating definitely has less of an impact. That's sure true, but I do believe that trail development could be done in a sustainable manner that would keep to the spirit of keeping that area wild and beautiful. And then there's a Gully River Week that's part of the mandated releases in the permit, and I never understood why that is the case. So hopefully someone can educate me on that, but they are in no way interconnected water systems. So I don't understand, other than just creating a whitewater extravaganza at the same time every year, why releases from Deep Creek have to even pay any attention to what's going on in the Gully River, which is, those waters don't intermingle until well into the Ohio River way downstream. And then kind of my probably most controversial statement here is I personally just don't think that the temperature enhancements for the trout fishery should be the primary priority. It just doesn't seem worth it to me. I think it's fly fishing is a good economic activity, but I think the prioritizing that above the other higher value economic uses of lake water is a bad use of that. I just don't see that there's a lot of people who are fishing this stretch of the river, and that their economic activity to the area is really that substantial compared to the potential cost of putting that at the top of the priority list. So that's, I'm sure maybe I'll get some comments or calls or whatever from fishermen, and that's fine. Keep it respectful. I've been trying to keep it respectful here too. I have had people who've kind of done some professional attacks on me for my positions, and that's not cool. So I welcome any debate and discussion. Just keep it cool. All right. But the final thought I have on this is, all of these uses, remember, the lake is man-made. All these uses are non-natural, and most of these are recreational. So while they, generate business and economic activity, none of these are life-sustaining uses of this water. So just take a step back when you're, feel that your particular one that you're representing is really important. It is, but nothing here is, we're not feeding or keeping anyone hydrated with this water as a primary use. So keep that in mind, but I've enjoyed making this video. Hope that there was some interesting and informative features in it. And like I said, I encourage anyone to contact me, call me, email me with your input into what I said. So until then, hope to see you all out and about on the lake in Garrett County and even on the Yough.